Most companies I speak to and most companies I come across cannot clearly tell me what they do. Never mind why I should buy from them. So I'm Danny. I run danny&co. We're a design and branding studio. Really, we're brand consultancy bolted onto design because I'm a designer by trade. So, and we have a set amount of consultancy and training and products and design services that help people discover their unique competitive advantage. And me personally, I always wanted to be a designer as a kid. It was a big dream of mine. At school, if you imagine like a kid's bedroom and what that looks like, usually if you get these thoughts of like TV, car figures, superheroes, mine was a bit like that, but in the corner there was a big stack of sketchbooks. You could literally fill a Range Rover with them. And that was kind of my life. It's what I wanted to do. I was really into Japanese animated films. And when I say that, most people get this vision of like Pokemon and stuff like that. And, but there's a whole set of subgenres underneath the Japanese animated films. So there was a big studio in Japan called Studio Ghibli that I follow like a fanboy. So I was very interested in that. And that was kind of the dream. When I left school, I wanted to move to Japan and either work for Nintendo or Studio Ghibli, and wanted to draw and animate and create characters. I was very into fantasy, and my computer game list from being a kid, amongst many other things, were games like Final Fantasy and Zelda and the role-playing stuff. So I was very interested in all of that, and I put a lot of the creativity that I use now down to the kind of fantasy elements that I had as a kid.
Yeah.
But because the creative industry, there's not much support or encouragement, or there wasn't back then. Now we have things like Pop Idol and X Factor and these talent shows where you can go and show your talent and get the opportunity to have the encouragement. But back then we didn't have that. So I just kind of went in whatever direction I was pushed in, which was to go and get a job. And not to bore you with such a long story, but the short version is I ended up in financial services for 12 years as a medical insurance account manager, then advisor. Then I was asked to go and start a department for a broker, which brought me down to the Cotswolds, where I am now. And then eventually me and an old colleague set up our own broker, which was great. You know, it was like, it was, I think back now to these films like, the Coffees for Closers film. I forget what it's called now. Glengarry Glen Ross and like Wolf of Wall Street. We used to watch that and think, oh my God, we were so close to that. It was like sales calls every day, trying to sell insurance and mortgages, and barbecues and beers in the afternoon, going to the gym. And it was a bit of it was the first time we really took a big step in business and tried to do things in big ways. So we had all these fancy ideas and things that we wanted to do. But anyway, time went on and we grew from medical insurance to protection to mortgages, and both got qualified. And then I ran a mortgage and insurance broker for a couple of years after that on my own. And one of the biggest things that I found in the mortgage industry was that it was so old-fashioned. And I was really into technology and design and branding, and I was watching all these new banks come about, like Monzo, that were called Mondo at the time, and Atom, and speaking to these really interesting people. And I was like, why am I traveling for 3 hours to see a client, spending an hour with them, for them only to put through an application and it fail and we have to start again? And at this point, I'm still not being paid. Why am I doing this when we could just do this online? So to fast forward a little bit, I ended up creating a proof of concept called Morgie, which was an online broker mortgage application. And I sold the intellectual property to a company in London and took on a big project to essentially build it for them. Yeah. At this point, you're probably thinking, so where does design come into this? Where does branding come into this? But that project was the big turning point in my career. It was the point where I realized that I'd been chasing money for so long, I forgot what I really wanted to do. And in the process was meeting people that were living a dream, like these creative people that were in like UI design and marketing and these really creative people. And I started to think, like, how do you get there? Like, how did you get to that point? And truth is, the whole purpose of me working with this company in London was that they were going to bid for a government contract worth like £3.5 billion, which they ended up winning. I wasn't on commission, by the way. Unfortunately, I should have been. But from that, I really started to have a bit of burnout, a bit of breakdown. Didn't like turning up to London every day for 18 hours a day for 3-4 days a week. And it really took its toll on me. So I decided that was it. I was done. And I didn't know what I was going to do. I still didn't know I was going to do anything in design. And I went home and wallowed in self-pity for a few months and tried to figure it out, really, tried to figure out what I wanted to do. I've been with my wife that whole time, the whole 12 years. So she knows, when I first met her, I went through the Prince's Trust to set up a design and print company. So she knows that I wanted to do something like that. I even owned a tattoo shop for 2 years in Birmingham. So I always kind of tried to keep my hand in the creative stuff, but there was never that, going back to like the encouragement support thing, there was never that like, yeah, go for it, or like there's a business there for you. So I just didn't do it. And then one day when I was at my lowest, really, my wife just said, why don't you just get paid for design? And it was almost like I had forgotten about it and it triggered something in my head. So yeah, I picked up the tools and got to work. And that was kind of the start of where I am now. And that was only a few years ago.
So it's been quite a journey then through everything. Obviously, so you've had to make like a lot of decisions, and you've set quite a lot up. So when it comes to your decision making, what sort of like what do you think of when it comes to that? Because I know you said a minute ago about originally you were chasing money. So I'm guessing was that the case before and that's now not? So yeah, when it comes to your decision making, what sort of things go through your head as a person?
Well, it used to be, how do I get more money? Like it was so like one track. It was so focused on that. How do I get more money? But there was never anything underlying. There was never like an end goal or a purpose for it. It was like, obviously more money means more stuff, better life. Like we think it equals all this stuff, these things, but you're really just, you're almost fighting the symptoms instead of curing the illness. So it was like I would fight for money and fight for more money and then more money, and every time you get to that next stage, you think, what am I doing this for again? And you have to remind yourself all the time. Whereas now it's very different. Primarily down to the fact that now I know I'm doing what I want to do, and I do have that. I basically say to people that as long as I can do this forever, I'm all right. Like I'm fine. So anything that enables me to do this for longer, or forever, I should say, then that's what drives me really. But through the last couple of years working with clients and building my portfolio and making sure that I can work with people I really want to work with, I've realized that there is a bigger purpose to this, and it got me thinking about branding and what that can do, and we can get into a whole rabbit hole. But basically it comes back to how can we advance humanity? How can I as a person leave a stamp and leave a legacy? And what are people going to say about me when I'm gone? So it shifts from money to purpose. And actually that is probably the strongest emotion that I have and the strongest purpose that I have. because then when money isn't there, or the clients don't come, or something bad happens, it makes no difference really in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
So yeah, I focus on that now. I focus on the happiness, the fulfillment, and doing something that I really want to do every day.
Nice.
Because I realize the money doesn't make a difference when you. So let me set the scene. I'm in London. I've been offered 110 grand plus bonuses and all the rest of it to work for a company that's just won the biggest contract in history for the industry I work in. You try going home and telling your wife that you're not taking that and our life is not going to change anymore, and it's just because you don't like the people. That's a really hard discussion to have.
Definitely.
Through that journey. So yeah.
Yeah, I think once you remove money from stuff, it changes everything. Because I know a lot of people, when I'm like, what are your goals in life? They're like, well, I want to be comfortable with money. I want to be happy with money. And my first question is, well, what does that look like? Because surely once you're comfortable with money, you end up spending more money and then you're not comfortable. So it's going to keep doing this. And that comfort level is going to keep getting higher and higher and higher, because you could be a millionaire and you're going to go end up wasting it all on cars, and then you're not going to be comfortable. So that money always carries it. And that's why my goals were similar to a point before, where as long as I had money, I was happy. But it was a case of, actually, I want more money now. I want to go and buy that. I want to go on that holiday. I want to do this. But as soon as I changed it to my happiness, my family's happiness, and like having a purpose, everything suddenly changed. And then suddenly you're not chasing money. And also going back to the fact of you turning down that bit, obviously the biggest contract, because of it didn't seem right to you. That's a big thing for me as well that I want to get across to people, is that not everything is as perfect as it seems. And especially in business, not every client is an ideal client. I've said this a couple of times before, where like you could have a client and they can offer you a little bit more money than normal, say, but if it's going to be a drainer, if it's going to be negative, you might even spend more hours on it than you should be. They're going to be a bit of a pain. It's not going to be that fulfilling thing. But obviously, if you're chasing money, you're just going to see that bank sign and go, yeah, let's take it. Whereas if you're not thinking about yourself, your team, and everything else, then yeah, it changes a lot. So yeah, so obviously, I know we spoke a little bit before. So as a team, have you now got a team, or are you looking to carry on growing a team?
So at the moment, it's very operational. So I run the business, and then there's I outsource a few bits. So accounts, HR, the operational parts of the business. The creative team, I've outsourced creative before. I've always had this romantic idea that I would build a dream team in house, a very small. I don't think I would ever really extend above 10 to 15 people maximum. I don't think you really need that if you're building a business around purpose. I can't ever imagine having like 1,000 employees. That just seems insane to me. It almost feels like a waste. Like the production level or the productivity level of a business, from my experience and from when I speak to clients, like goes like this when you have like between 5 and 10 employees, and then slowly just trickles down as you get bigger and bigger. Like the profit gets less, the hassle gets more, you end up being a firefighter. And I don't really want that out of the business. It's not a fulfilling thing for me. So I just want to do the best work we can with the best clients we can, the clients that we want to deal with. And I don't think I need more than 8 people, to be honest, to be able to do that. But I realize that I also want to have some balance for my team in their personal lives. So to give them that, I'll alleviate some of the pressure with a few additional staff members. So we're recruiting probably 8 people before the end of the year, which are mostly creative and production roles, as well as project management and business development. So yeah, there's a lot going on at the minute, but it's exciting.
So if we have another chat in like 6 months' time, things could look very different, and
very different.
You could have that buzzing team. But yeah, I agree with like a smaller team. I've only got a small team now, and I've managed smaller teams before. And for me, I like to know what's going on with people. I like to know them as well. And I'm the same as you. If I had 100 employees, I wouldn't be able to remember everybody. I go back to school, and the fact is, like, I don't know everybody I couldn't remember everybody in my year. Whereas being an employee, I want to know each person, and it's the whole. Actually, do you know what? If you're not feeling 100% today, take that day off. Whereas if you've got a massive company, that's where like these bubbles start to happen and people start to be unhappy, but you don't know about it because you're having to deal with the other 999 members of staff.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's about that personal connection. And there's I hate the phrase. It's like, when people say it's just business, I hate that
Yeah.
phrase more than
Yeah.
anything. Like, nothing is just business. Everything is personal. Like,
Yeah.
because we're emotionally bought into the business until you get to a certain stage, obviously. But you're emotionally bought into the business till you get too big to give a crap anymore.
Yeah.
So everything is personal up until then. So I will always run a business around family and values, personal values, and people, because I wanted it for myself. Essentially, the only reason I'm hiring people is because I want to give to other people what I didn't really get. I never had that encouragement. And if that means that I hire a project manager that wants to be an artist, and while he or she has been a project manager for us, she works on her art and ends up selling some pieces and makes that a career, then amazing. Like, what an amazing thing to do. So yeah, if I can build that infrastructure for people to have what I never had, I'd be really happy. That's a really fulfilling thing for me. And that's why I do a lot of work with universities and colleges and education, especially with creative students, because we just don't get it. There's been a few times where, you get added to lists, like these. So I was added to like a 42 under 42 Business Insider list. And I was like, designers just don't get this kind of recognition. It doesn't happen. So it's amazing. It's an amazing thing to do. And just so I can show that to other people and say it can be done is really important for me.
I like that a lot. So obviously with you going through these different paths, obviously a big focus of the audience who are listening, like obviously watching, is obviously a younger audience, and it's about getting through and decision making and just sort of genuinely motivating people. So a big thing that we've had on the other ones that I've obviously done is showing that everybody makes mistakes. And obviously a big thing that I believe in is that everybody makes mistakes, and if you're not making mistakes, you're probably not learning as much. Whereas little mistakes are absolutely fine because you learn from them, you become better as a person, the business becomes better, which way it is. So in your journey, whether that's right back obviously the 12 years ago or recently in your newest business, is there been a mistake that stood out for you that you really learned from and actually potentially even changed the path of what you ended up doing?
Yes. And it's what I've already spoken about, really. It's chasing money without purpose. There's I am 100% confident that if you are chasing money, you will never be fulfilled in your work, and you will never do something that you love. And the reason for that is that you can't just chase money. There's going to be a point where, like, you have to decide what's enough. There's so many people out there that, because it's very public now how successful people are, and you have personal brands and influencers, and just the way that the market has developed over the last decade, it's really, really easy for us to see that as, oh, it's, I just want to earn £1 million, or I just want to get $1 million. Like, what? Why? No, who needs £1 million? Like, and then what happens? Like, what happens at that point? Because if you want $1 million, it's pretty in the grand scheme of things. Like, some people will take this the wrong way, but in the grand scheme of things, money is so easy. Like, it's so easy to go and get money. Like, if you want some money, you just go get it. You sell stuff, you offer a service, you do something. All you have to do is go and ask someone. Like, a really simple example of that is, like, go and knock on your next door neighbour's door and say, will you pay me £25 if I make your car look like it did when you first bought it, showroom quality? I'm pretty sure they're going to go, decent, yeah, crack on. It's sounds like quick. Like money is so easy when your head's in the right place.
Yeah.
So like, if you get £1 million, then what?
Yeah.
That is such an arbitrary like number that people pull out of the air. There's no purpose behind it. So the point I'm trying to get at is if you can figure out the reason for you doing what you do beyond making money, you've won the entire game. You're done. Because all you're going to do for the rest of your life is that, and the money doesn't matter. Like if the economy crashed tomorrow, I'd still design stuff. Like I'd still create, and I would still go to people and say, "Can I create this for you?" Nothing would change apart from the fact that I wasn't earning as much money from it. I was saying as soon as lockdown hit and everyone was kind of questioning what's going on, my immediate thing was that everyone was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And it's a terrible time, granted. But my wife was like, what if you don't get any business? I was like, it's fine. I'll drive for Amazon. They're going to be looking for drivers forever. Like I'll drive and deliver for a living, and I will do design on the side until market picks back up again. Everyone's so romantic about running a business. Like go and earn money, like get the money out the way and then do what you love doing. But if you don't know what that is and you don't have a purpose for it, the money's just pointless. It's a nothingness.
I do agree with that, and I know obviously during lockdown a lot of people have been worried, and it's been a difficult time. But at the same time, for me, I bit something. I personally didn't think it was controversial, but I used the word lazy basically. So I said that if you are somebody who's been wanting time to do something, whether it's a hobby and turn it into something, you've had the opportunity over the last 6 months. But with that, I made it clear that I'm talking to my age people, the under 25s of the world, who have been furloughed for 3 months. And I tried to make it clear that, don't get me wrong, there's 60 odd million people in this country, so it doesn't relate to everybody. And obviously I had people commenting on it saying, yeah, but I'm a mum and I did this. And I was like, yeah, but you've done something for the last 6 months because you've been a parent, you've done the hardest job in the world. And it ended up becoming this whole big thing because a lot of people who were being like affected by that post were the people who have actually sat back now and realizing, actually, do you know what? I have had spare time over the last 6 months to do something a little bit extra. But it's because I use the word lazy, which as a marketing person, you need something that sparks a bit of an emotion. And that's why I did it.
I've just bought a book. I've just bought this book, Hook Point, and that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
All you got to do, you just got to do or say something to get people's attention before you kind of tell them what it is. Yeah.
Well, that's what I always say, that what you want to do is if everybody agrees with you, your opinion, maybe whatever you're saying is maybe a little bit boring or it's what everyone agrees with. If you've got some people agreeing with you and some people disagreeing with you, that's where it really tests you, because people are actually, you've got an opinion on whether it's social media, marketing, branding, whatever. If somebody's going, do you know what, I don't agree with that, and you're going, actually, do you know what, yeah, I'm really worried now because people don't disagree with me, it probably goes back to what you said right at the start about the fact that people don't know what they're selling and people don't know their brand. And I get it a lot where people are like, oh yeah, but if I say that, people are going to disagree with me. My first thing is, okay, and if people disagree with you, surely you know what you're doing and you can back up your point enough to say, actually, do you know what, yeah, you do disagree with me, but here's why I do think I'm right, and this is why it's working, and this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. Yeah, because obviously I know you said right at the start that a lot of people don't know they don't even know what they're selling. So obviously, do you want to explain a little bit more about that and obviously why you said that?
Yeah. So basically, the statement is most people don't know what they do, or can't clearly explain to me what they do, never mind why people should buy from them. And the reason that I say that is because whenever I talk to a company or business owner about what they do, you know, people that are watching or listening to this will know if someone comes up to you and says, what do you do? Most of us just kind of fumble over what it is. You know, I used to do it. I'm a designer, but, you know, I do branding, or Like most people don't know what branding is or what it means, so it means nothing to them. So I used to do it where I'd stumble over my words, and yeah, I do branding and design, and if you need like logos and infographics or whatever, and that's great. But that's a really pragmatic, practical thing to say, but they still don't know why they need it or why they should buy from you. And the reason that I have that statement is that's kind of my hook point. The fact that I start with the statement that most people or most small businesses can't clearly tell me what they do, never mind why they do it, or why I should buy from them. And the reason that I use that is because it instantly makes people think, oh yeah, I don't think I could say that. And I can tell you from the work that I do in branding with people, and I define branding as I guess a specific thing within the branding as a broad term, because it's so broad you can't really define it. So I define it as something else. And the reason that I talk about it so much is because branding, in my sense, what I'm talking about is strategy, messaging, behaviors, and identity.
Yeah.
If you can clearly define your message, what you do, and why people should buy from you, you immediately create confidence in clients, where they not only know why they should buy from you, but if you do it right, they can tell other people why they should buy from you as well.
Yeah.
And that is the one thing stopping markets and companies and businesses from growing. The fact that their communication is so convoluted and there's nothing clear about it means that people are just confused. They just don't know what's going on. They don't know why they should buy from you or what problem you solve. So yeah, go on.
I was going to say, I get it a lot now, obviously, because I outsource a lot of what I do when it comes to digital marketing and stuff. And I know I get a lot where I get people come to me and go, I can do the branding for you. And I'm like, okay, great. What does that look like? And they're like, oh, well, I can do a logo. And I'm like, is that your version? And a lot of the time it's, yeah, it. And I think people think that a logo is their brand and it's everything. But there's a lot of there's a lot of logo designers out there who are like, oh, what do you want? And it's a case of, okay, I want my name and that's it. They don't ask about colors. They don't ask about slogans. They don't ask about the picture in it, how it should be laid out or anything. So yeah, a lot of people listening maybe as well always think branding is just a logo and that's it. And it's like, no, it's this whole thing that nobody thinks about.
So I guess this is kind of my topic, so I'll touch on it a little bit. Most people look at branding as the visual elements of your business. And most people actually go to focus on that first. So if we create a business or start a business, the first thing we do is, right, I need a name, a logo, I need to figure out what the company's called, I need to register it, etc. The visual elements of your brand, despite the fact that it's the thing that you see first with any business, it should be the last thing you do as a company. There is absolutely, this is a funny story to tell. So when I started as a graphic designer, I loved doing logos. I got into the industry through logos because I did a 30-day logo challenge on my 30th birthday. I did 30 logos, one every single day for an hour, and I would speed up the process of me doing it, record the screen and post it every day for 30 days. And it'd be like a 30-second video of how I designed it. And that was the start of my design career, really. Then when I realized that I started to gain some traction, I realized I need to increase what I was charging to make it a feasible business. So I started charging people like 150 quid for a logo. And then I literally doubled the price every 60 days or so, roundabouts, for as long as I could, until people started saying no enough that I didn't have enough money to live. And through doing that, I needed to start to understand, how do I make this logo more valuable, which led to, how do I make the problem I'm solving more of a tough point to talk about, or more of something that I need to dig into. And what started happening is people were coming to me every single day saying, I've seen you do logos, how much is a logo? And my immediate response would be, what's the problem? And what that started to do was it started to allow me to reject 90% of the work and get paid more for all of it with the 10% that was left. And as soon as I realized that, I started to change the business to more of a branding consultancy and design agency, because I could see that a logo isn't just a logo, and people don't come to me for a logo. They come to me for what the logo represents and what it's going to do to their business over the long term. And the conversation usually goes like this: how much is a logo? Okay, well, let's rewind a little bit. What's the problem? And they usually say, what do you mean, what's the problem? Well, if you're going to redesign your logo, the face of your company, the one thing that every single person is going to see when they come to your business, what kind of problem are you going to solve for them? Actually, mostly it's, well, I just want to make sure I look the part and make sure that, and now we start to dig into okay, so there's got to be a reason you want to look the part. Are you worried about getting customers, worried about targeting the right people? There's a problem there somewhere. And when you really dig deep, the quality of the questions you start to ask and get answers for determine the value of a logo, really. So I've gone from charging 150 quid only a year and a half ago, a little bit longer, maybe 2 years ago, to doubling the price every 60 to 90 days, and I'm still doing it. Nice. I'm still giving it a go every 60 days or so. I'm like, I'm just going to double it and see what happens. So it's really allowed me to scale the business within a year, far beyond what I would have imagined when I decided I was going to become a graphic designer, which is clearly what I'm not now. It's very different, but it's a very broad topic and a very deep subject that we'd need 4 other podcasts to go into.
I was going to say we could go very deep into branding and everything, and that's for sure. And it's a never ending and never changing thing, branding and digital marketing and social media, and that's for sure. So obviously, to sort of like end it, what I always like to do this, if you could give sort of one piece of advice or a tip to everybody sort of like watching now, who, because obviously this will be still going out in the next couple of weeks, people are in different situations, obviously they're making decisions. What one piece of tip and advice, it might be something you've already said, but what would you want to what message would you want to share with everybody?
I want to share a quote from a lady called Vivian Green, which is kind of the motto of life, really. And I'll kind of give it some context after. But the quote goes something like, I'm not very good at memorizing these things, something like, life isn't about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning to dance in the rain. And even just saying that out loud now gives me shivers and goosebumps, everywhere. Because no matter what situation you're in, if you can just find a way to enjoy that part of life, no matter how bad it is, you'll come out the other end so much stronger, and from learning so much and from building yourself so much. The next thing you have to tackle is going to be so much easier. So just enjoy the journey, no matter how bad it is, all good. One thing I've learned is that no matter how good or bad things are, you will always have problems. They're just different kinds of problems. I'm pretty sure that the richest, most famous, most successful people in the world have their problems. They're just not the kind of problems that you might have. So you got to take the rough with the smooth, enjoy the journey, instead of just waiting around for things to blow over. Because I promise you, I know this from having a child, when I was told that we both would never have one. There's never the best time to do anything. You just have to go and do it. So that's my bit of advice.
I like that a lot, and I completely agree with it, that there's never a right time for anything.
No, there isn't.
And waiting until something finishes is never the best time, and planning for that time is never the best. It's
I've
what's
got
happening right
friends.
now.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. I've got friends that are like, so we're saving up for a house, and then when we have a house, we're gonna probably try for a kid. But in order for us to do that, I'm looking for another job so I can like get paid more or get a promotion or whatever. Like, what? But they're like, we're really doing it because we want to have a kid. I'm like, just have a kid. Like, if you want a kid, just have a kid. What are you doing? Waiting, hoping you get another job or another promotion or a little bit more money before you can buy the next house before you have a kid. Have a kid and figure it out. Like, it'll be fine. There's no time like now. Like, go.
No time now. Yeah, 100% agree with that. You know, it's like now, and waiting around doesn't means you just end up waiting more and more because there's always a reason to wait longer. Always an excuse to wait longer, and it's okay. I'll wait for that now. Just get it done. Just get it done now. But yeah, that's perfect. Well, thank you for being a great guest, and obviously I hope that everybody watching and listening has got some very valuable pieces of sort of like advice and some things to really go from. That'd be perfect.